Alrighty, so I'm going to be talking about the information processing newspaper that I made, and this is a newspaper about a high school in San Clemente and their study abroad experience in Spain. So I want to begin with just enjoy an experience full of culture and relationships, and I also put that in Spanish, which is disfruta una experiencia llena de cultura y relaciones. It comes pretty much from my experience in Spain, but relating it back to the students in San Clemente. We have them going through their experience here and just some like out outwards excursions to Rota, Spain in the south, and possibly some kids went to the Bellas Artes Museum, which is the Fine Arts Museum, or the Fighting of the Bulls experience. So we're just going to talk about the input of their sensory and understanding of the world. Up at the top, we talked about the experiences and special attention towards what we see through our senses and what we taste through food and drink. The study abroad experience is through a company called CEA, and they were able to focus their input processing skills through sight, sound, and taste of the environment around them during their study abroad excursions. And all of the students developed a personal perception of the environment around them and how they view things and how it works in their minds, and develops a further understanding of this new culture. The students hosted a recap night when they got back from their experience, tapping into their storage processing needs, where they decided what information was important to them and what they wanted to present to the audience, and then also what information is going to likely be stored until a later experience. As we move down here, the students were allowed to independently explore for a couple days, and this allowed them to recall and use their selective attention skills, which really focused on what was interesting or fun to them. And while they didn't have necessarily guidelines of the school and teachers, they went to a bullfight for one group and the Fine Arts Museum for another, and afterward they met up at lunch and debriefed on these very different experiences, and they were able to use their short-term memory skills to recall what had just happened. It's a little longer than typical short-term memory, which could be from a few moments or seconds, but still within the same day is considered short-term memory recall. It was more difficult for the students who went to the bullfight because they were using their output processing responses in order to maintain a level of respect for the audience members who were local Spanish natives. Some people don't necessarily agree with the bullfighting and the rights for the animals that exist there, so this is an important output processing skill that you use, which is the understanding of the environment around you and the response that you should give it based on the input that you have. Then the students took an excursion to Rota, which is the very southern point of Spain. It's in the region called Andalusia, and many families live under one roof, until they are married and expecting children, at which point they move out from this home. And even though it's different from American culture pretty drastically, actually, the students were able to parallelly process this information, which is understanding it as the same time that it's coming in, and all this information at the same time. And it does take pretty highly skilled functioning there, but the students were able to do so fluidly because of the understanding of cultural difference that they had already developed before on prior experiences and what they learned in school. Then lastly, we have processing serially, which the students and the School of San Clemente were able to input into their learning by learning the language. This is accomplished in a serial processing manner because the students would learn new vocabulary and new grammar, and then take it into the next step of applying it to the environment in Spain. So this is one step completed of the vocabulary and grammar, and then on to the next. And without learning the first step, it would make it very difficult to continue on and being fluent in the environment in another language, and or just understanding basic vocabulary in Spain itself. And then the last part I want to hit on one more time is just the input of processing skills. This is the reception of information and data around us through our sensory input. And that is just being constantly fired off in a new environment. You're looking, you're hearing, your understanding of the environment and the way people they work, they play, they eat culturally. It's just very overwhelming, and that is why our perception is developed the way it is, because you have to decide what information is important to you and what needs to be stored properly to move on and develop further meaning. So that is my newspaper article for information processing. Thank you.